Hello, welcome back to Sarratt Community Garden. It is the end of November, 21st, so it's a month to the shortest day, and I just wanted to show you that the garden doesn't have to look brilliant all of the time. So here's a little window into the garden when things aren't really growing, we've put things to bed, everything looks a little bit sad, and that's okay. So come and have a look at what's happening. So in here we had peppers and chilies, and although it's the end of November, they're actually still looking quite good. Look at these. I don't think they'll ripen, but those are perfectly edible, really nice. So I'm quite chuffed with those. This here is a mixture of two plants. They got muddled in together. This one is panicum, sparkling fountain, which we grow to go with cut flowers and looks really beautiful. And it's growing in amongst some lemongrass, which was an experiment. And they both look quite healthy. The panicum should die back. It's a tender perennial. But we'll see, and I'm hoping we might be able to get some seeds from that, which out in the open you don't tend to be able to collect the seeds very well, so that's great. The lemongrass, although it's really nice and tall, it's the stems are very thin and you tend to want a swollen base, so we'll be watching that space. And we've got some ripened chilies here. For November, it's quite nice to have something to pick. Here are the Dahlias, which did us so proud all through the summer. And we picked the last ones in mid-October. It's now end of November. They look so sad, but it's okay. So all we're going to do is cut them down to the base, and then I tend to leave the stems piled on top, so they act as an insulating barrier. I've also put loads of compost here, so the tubers themselves are really well insulated. What they hate most is getting really, really wet and sort of sitting in wet, and they tend to rot. Whereas the cold doesn't seem to be quite such an issue. So if you put plenty of compost and organic matter on, then you've got really good drainage, and they should just reappear next May. Around May they should start shooting up, and I always leave all of my dahlia tubers in the ground. These here are Alstroemerias, which are extraordinary. I mean, look at this, they're in full bloom at the end of November. They've got buds, and I'm just thrilled with them. I don't know if you know, but with Alstroemerias, if you want to pick them and you want them to keep coming, you pull them just like rhubarb rather than cutting. So if I can just do that here, there we go, and you'll come out with this sort of blanched bit at the bottom, which I cut out. You know, it doesn't stand that well in water, but amazing, isn't it? You can still get a fresh bunch of English flowers in November. So the last thing that's in flower here is borage. Now they're looking a bit gone over, really, but I'm hoping in there is still some nectar for the bees, because on mild days in autumn and winter the bees will come out flying, and obviously that uses loads of energy for them, so they need nectar to make up for the lost energy that they've used. So I'm leaving my borage. There's part of me that wants to be a little bit tidy up all the corners of the garden and compost them, but I think for those few flowers that are still there, leave them for the bees. Now this bed is all Alstroemerias, just like these that we picked. Let's see if I can find some more that are flowering. Yeah, here's one. Oh, you might know this one. This is Indian Summer. It's a very famous Alstroemeria. Now these sort of span between the hardy and the tender, and if you put loads and loads of mulch on, so compost, leaf mould, bracken, straw, then they should make it through the winter. And for their first couple of winters, it's a bit touch and go. You've got to look after them so well, mulch more than you can ever imagine. Then after that, they should behave more like a hardy perennial, and you can not worry so much. Having said that, always mulch, keep mulching their whole life. And look how lucky we are here. If you look down at the ground, we've got a natural mulch. We haven't had to spread it at all. So there's an oak tree just up here, which, you know, it casts shade. It's not the ideal environment for growing vegetables, but there are so many benefits. And one of the benefits at this time of year is the gorgeous, gorgeous leaves that drop on the ground. And these will gradually rot down, they'll feed all of the soil microbiota, and they'll just keep everything happy. It's like a little insulating blanket. These peonies will enjoy it. They love a little mulch. I'm going to give them some extra of our own compost too. But I love these leaves. Here we are at my favourite place, it's the compost heap. I had a great guy who's made me this little sign so people know where to dump their fresh compost. And you can see people brought us their pumpkins after Halloween. I think we had 15. We put a little bin outside the shop and people put them in so they're not wasted. Brought them down here. And I know I bang on all the time about your carbon and nitrogen ratio, but these are really high in nitrogen. Any fruit and veg, hugely high in nitrogen, and you can end up with a really soggy mess. So if you just look over here, we've got this lovely pile of wood chippings, which is beginning actually to rot down a bit there. So every time we get a load of nitrogen rich stuff, so that would be grass cuttings, not so much at the moment, pumpkins, any fruit or veg left from the shop, we add a good old shovelful of the wood chip, and that balances out the carbon to nitrogen ratio, and you get much better compost for it. And if you come over here, you can see we've rebuilt the compost bays. Just so chuffed with them. They're brilliant. Look at it. Crumbly, it's dark, all ready to be spread. Couldn't be happier. Here's the green manure, Phacelia tanacetifolia, sown at the end of October, just broadcast. This will grow, it'll be feeding the soil organisms over the winter, and if we let it flower, the bees will love it. If we don't, we've improved our soil. Fantastic leaf mould pile. It's 2 pallets deep and wide. The whole village has been bringing us leaves, deciduous fallen leaves, and I'm just so thrilled with it. This will take 2 years to rot down properly, but then we will have such a great resource. Bring it on.